So Jerry Jones has always been a meddler. Jimmy Johnson told me the first few years when he bought the team and he was trying to make money, he didn't see Jerry in the football side. And then Jerry got the money right. Jimmy started winning games. Then Jerry, who played college football, wanted to suddenly, think of himself as a GM and a coach. He still does. But he never thought of himself as a fan. That's what fans say. Hey, we just had a bad game and they had a good game. Now, San Francisco's got way better players. You got about 3 guys that could start for them. And the other thing about, well, we could play better the next time. That's what fans always say. Like their team's the only team that can improve. You don't think San Francisco, Brock Purdy's not going to get better all these starts, meets Dallas again in the playoffs? That sounds like a fan. They just played really well and we didn't. No, it was more than that. Well, we have a lot of areas to improve in. Shanahan's better than McCarthy. The better CEO, the better football coach has a greater opportunity to improve than an average football coach. That's what a fan says. Listen, there are disturbing signs now. When you get to week 5 and 6, you start seeing data and the truth comes out. Here are several concerns right now with Dallas. Number 1, Dak Prescott. The numbers are out. I won't bore the radio audience. It's too tedious to read all of them. Dak is pretty good in the first quarter, goes downhill until he's awful in the fourth quarter. He gets worse every quarter. So Dak, like most veteran quarterbacks, is good on script. Then it gets ugly by the second half. Now, is that on Mike McCarthy's play calling? So Dallas is pretty good on the element of surprise. But once the surprise is done and it comes down to your playmakers and my playmakers, Dallas doesn't have enough because they pay Dak too much money. So that's a real concern. Dak is getting significantly worse as the game goes on. Here's the other thing that has become crystal clear. Justin Herbert, with a new coordinator, Kellen Moore, has massively upgraded in the second half. Uh-oh. So Herbert's best quarter is Dak's worst, the fourth. So the Chargers, this isn't difficult. The Chargers now are a top 5 red zone team with Kellen Moore without Austin Eckler. Their chess piece. Not good. So in review, Dak Prescott, worst quarter now, the fourth, and getting worse in the red zone this year. Lost Kellen Moore. Justin Herbert gained Kellen Moore, the sharp young coordinator. His second half's skyrocketing. His fourth quarter's his best quarter. And his red zone without his chess piece, Austin Eckler, top 5 in the league. Not complicated, folks. Not complicated. This would be like a baseball team saying, we hit a lot more home runs last year than this year, and our rival hits more home runs this year than last year because you traded them your cleanup hitter. It wouldn't be hard to figure out if it's baseball. Why aren't we hitting as many home runs? Well, Aaron Judge left. It's one of those. Kellen Moore leaves Dallas. They're now a terrible red zone team and a terrible fourth quarter team. Kellen Moore goes to the Chargers. They're now a great second half offense, a great fourth quarter team, and a great red zone team. A plus B equals C. This is not calculus. Of all the NFL dilemmas of all the teams, this is the easy one. And again, we know this to be true. The more you pay the quarterback, you sort of have to live with what you have weapons-wise now. The other thing that's pretty clear, and it's happened in football, and I think all of you would acknowledge this, football's different now than 10 years ago. Creative wins. A creative quarterback like a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. A creative offensive coordinator or a creative coach. Let me give you teams I view as creative. Baltimore, Detroit, Miami, Kansas City, Philly, San Francisco, the Jags. You know what I don't consider Mike McCarthy and Dak? Creative. I said this last week. They're dull. The Cowboys are boring in offense. I was reading The Ringer. Stephen Ruiz wrote an article, and he judges quarterbacks on several categories. And Dak does pretty well in a lot of categories. You know his biggest weakness? Creativity. So this is a really easy one. And Jerry, who was always a businessman And after he started succeeding with the money with the Cowboys, moved into GM and football guy, meddler, but he cared deeply. We never considered him a fan. Jerry's now a fan. Well, they just played well and we didn't. Oh, okay. Wouldn't be a coach issue. Wouldn't be a Kellen Moore issue. Wouldn't be a paid Dak too much issue. No, it's just a you didn't play well. They played well. I don't know, folks. That's not good. Your owner can be a meddler. By the way, there are successful owners that meddle. Steve Ballmer is right on top of the Clippers. I mean, you know, there are owners out there that I like a lot. They're right on top of their team. Can't be a fan. Can't be a fanboy. Well, we'll get him next time. We'll play better. Other teams play better, too. All right, I saw this story. Aaron Rodgers yesterday preaching patience to the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love. It's always easier, by the way, to preach patience in somebody else's building. You ever notice that? It's always easy. Your company's crushing. You go, that other company needs to be patient. But Aaron Rodgers said this, and I like patience. You should have it when you raise children or teach somebody how to play piano. But Aaron Rodgers said there's going to be growing pains. I had growing pains my first year starting. We all go through it. Going to be fine. Great kid. Good young man. Take some deep breaths. Trust the kid. Great kid. Cares about it. Going to be around for a while. They're going to get it fixed. Yeah. Patience is one of those things that sounds great and is useful occasionally, mostly with children. It gets people fired in the NFL. Right? Can't be too patient. Let me give you an example. Detroit, I have lauded this year for being patient. The Lions had a plan, drafted, developed, implemented it, and now for the third straight year, we're seeing it work. But that's different. They implemented a plan, they saw it work, and then they added to their plan. It worked even greater. They added again to it. Now we're watching this year. They're even better. That's different. Jordan Love's been there now 4 years. They're still coaching like they're terrified to let him go back and throw. By the way, Houston with C.J. Stroud, rookie, missing 4 offensive linemen. They don't coach scared. Anthony Richardson, Colts. He only started 1 year in college football. They don't coach scared. James Jones was on the show yesterday. Green Bay looks terrified to cut it loose with Jordan Love.
Eventually, you got to find out. Eventually, you just got to let these young boys go. I coach little kids, too. And sometimes I'm out there coaching, and I do what Coach LaFleur did last night and what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing, trying to call it safe. And then I'm like, you know what, forget it. And I'm like, dang, my kids can handle it. You know, my young quarterbacks can handle it. You know, so eventually you got to let these young players go. You got to let these young quarterbacks go and they just got to go out there and they got to go through the ups and the downs.
By the way, so here's something to consider. There's a term in business called seeing around corners. Can you see problems before they're on top of your lap? It's the best college quarterback draft class ever. And the bottom of the NFC is worse than the bottom of the AFC. So many of these Drake Mays, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, they're going to go to Chicago and Minnesota and Washington and Atlanta maybe and Tampa, your conference. This is what happened 5 years ago, roughly, in the AFC, when the AFC bottom was awful. And then Buffalo drafted a quarterback, and so did Kansas City and Cincinnati and Baltimore and the Jags and the Chargers. They all got young stars. And you know the franchise that was patient? Pittsburgh. Big Ben. They wouldn't draft quarterbacks. Drafted one, Big Ben got a little prickly, they stopped. How's that patience working out? Name your last big playoff win. So the AFC had a really bad bottom. They all started drafting quarterbacks, and about 6 teams hit on them. That's why Russell Wilson in the AFC doesn't look like a top 10 guy. That's why Aaron Rodgers now going to be 40 in the AFC. There's no guarantee he's going to do anything in the AFC. They weren't patient. Teams moved off people. Kansas City had Alex Smith. They were going to the playoffs. Screw patience. Let's go get Mahomes. Wild. Not even a winning record. Sidearm thrower. Kansas City could have been patient with Alex Smith. They weren't. They went for it. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, Buffalo, got to the playoffs. Don't get me patient. So patience sounds great. New England didn't sense the urgency. Didn't trade up. We'll just wait for Mac Jones. It's not working. So this, by the way, the Bears in 6 months could draft Caleb Williams. And we talked about this yesterday. The Vikings in 6 months could have Drake May. Going to go into year 5 with Jordan Love. Be patient. Patience is great when you're teaching somebody how to drive or play the piano. It can be really overrated in football. Everybody gets 4-year contracts, and by the middle of year 2, if you're not winning, you get fired. That's pro sports. There's standings. There's winners and losers, and you're a bum. I'm watching the David Beckham Netflix documentary. You see him as iconic and a legend in England. Halfway through his career, 22, 23 years old, he was hated. Death threats, kidnapping threats for his kids. Sports fans aren't patient. Owners listen to sports fans on radio and TV. They're not patient, right? Even icons, MJ, a struggle. David Beckham, a struggle. Favre, Rodgers had their struggles. It's just really easy in another building to go just be patient. The NFC, go look at the draft order right now. The top of that draft is a lot of NFC teams, and this is a great college quarterback draft class. Caleb Williams and Drake May could be in your division. Forget conference, your division in 6 months. Be careful about patience.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.